So here we are today with Ariel Pohoryles, who is head of product marketing at Rivery. Ariel, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. It's great to be here.
Good. So let's get started. I'm curious what prompted your founders to launch Rivery. What's the fundamental business problem that you're looking to solve?
That's a very good question. I was actually part of the same organization that my founders were part of. It was a global data consultancy.
Okay.
I was actually at the time based in Canada, and they were based in the Israeli office, kind of the heart of the startup ecosystem of Israel and Tel Aviv, and kind of the startup nation kind of motion around them. And they were doing a lot of consultancy projects, helping organizations stand up their architecture, their analytics architecture really from scratch, working with a lot of startups kind of between their Series A, Series B kind of rounds at the moment where they've proven there's some market fit to their products, and at that stage, okay, let's invest a bit more in setting up proper analytics to really scale this up. A lot of kind of digital first day organizations, B2B SaaS companies, many of them with no data and analytics teams at start. And they kind of recruited 1-2 people to get off the ground, but obviously need some help from a consultancy to really build to scale. And what we saw with many of those organizations is that they all kind of almost born in the cloud, if you will, using lots of different SaaS applications, hosting their data in different places. And they really needed everything. They had nothing in place, very few data people, a lot of kind of engineering people that knew a lot about their products, but not much about how to set up data platforms. So they really needed a quick way to get to a robust a foundation, but at the same time with little needs to or little time and effort required to maintain it. So they're kind of looking for the most scalable, easy to maintain, easy to use a platform in place. A lot of them went to obviously cloud data warehouses like Snowflake, BigQuery. At the time, Redshift was a bit more popular as well, where you had little maintenance on the warehousing side, but you still needed to find a way to apply the same experience on the warehouse side for the data engineering aspect of your platform, really the data pipeline, all the data integration that you had in place. And what we saw in those projects is that a lot of the sources, it wasn't very hard for an engineering team to connect to those, Salesforce, NetSuite, all their ads channels, if they used to go to Facebook ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads. It's quite easy to leverage the APIs of those SaaS platforms and pull data from it, but it was very hard for them to maintain it over time because the APIs kept on changing. And we as a consultancy saw the repetitive kind of project that we had to take across those organizations. So that's where we kind of realized an opportunity here to really productize this solution that we built in the form of a foundation that's really easy to set up and stand, offering a very similar experience to what they got from the cloud data warehouses with almost zero management, zero administration in the form of a SaaS platform, but at the same time providing that ability to pull the data, and then afterwards we started scaling that, and it wasn't just about replicating and ingesting data into the warehouse, but it was also about transforming it in a way that's, again, easy enough to scale and maintain. And that's where we started with SQL transformations, which kind of almost everybody knows SQL as even as an analyst. So we saw ourselves standing up platforms, data analytics platform for organizations that had 1-2 analysts that were able to maintain end-to-end a solution that included data integration processes that in the past required a dedicated kind of full-time engineer to maintain those, or a clear split between the BI layer and the ETL layer, if you will. And so what Rivery gave those organizations the option to just hire the analyst that was taking care of, if you will, the Tableau dashboards or whatever BI tool they had, but also at the same time maintaining kind of no-code pipelines to bring the data into the warehouse before they can consume it from the BI layer.
So that certainly hits on some common themes we see with our community of practitioners, simplifying the management and the integration of data on cloud platforms, and then democratizing the consumption of it. If you were to describe your target customer, your ideal customer, who would that individual be and what would that company be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we tend to split into from a persona perspective, two different types of users. One is that analyst I just mentioned that it's maybe not as technical as data engineer, and so for them the no-code experience of connecting to a lot of sources and then just using SQL to transform the data is very easy to pick up and get into. And what we see with those users is that they tend to kind of leverage almost like the end-to-end offering of the platform and really build complete architectures on Rivery. The other persona would be data engineers, would integrate parts of Rivery in the entire data infrastructure they have. And so they may maintain kind of more unique aspects of their architecture. Maybe they have some streaming events that they coded some specific solutions for, but then Rivery is used to kind of offload all the processes that are repetitive around managing connections to different sources or running database replications using effective CDC. So a lot of the ingestion piece is kind of offloaded to Rivery. The other piece they may be doing is also a reverse ETL with Rivery back into a operational system. So we see that a lot done by data engineers. So there are kind of two main personas we see using the system. In terms of organizational or the organizations that we typically tend to work with, could be anywhere from a startup of 50 to 100 people up to a large organizations, enterprises, 1,000, 2,000 employees as well. They are either in the process of migrating to the cloud, or in the process I mentioned before of starting an analytics infrastructure from scratch if they're a startup. The vertical is not really a factor for us. I think it's really everybody needs a data integration. So I would say less of a factor, but obviously we play mostly in the space of organization that wants to move to the cloud. So if they're completely on-prem, it's not an organization that they would typically be a good fit for us. But if they are in the process of moving to Snowflake, Databricks, whatever kind of cloud platform, then will be a great option for them.
Okay, good. Great stuff. That certainly makes sense and fits with some of our research here at Eckerson Group. I'm curious about the primary use cases that Rivery supports, and I think one of the things that differentiates you, and we'll get to that in my next question, is the broad set of capabilities that you have for ingestion, transformation, orchestration, and so on. What would be the primary use cases that you're supporting with one or more of those capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I touched a little bit upon the first one. That's kind of what triggered the start of Rivery, but definitely standing up a whole analytics infrastructure from scratch. If you're onboarding now a project where you're going to stand up a Snowflake cloud data warehouse, it's never just about Snowflake, right? So there's going to be a BI layer or a consumption layer, maybe not just for BI, maybe for AI as well, and other use cases. And there's going to be a data ingestion layer as well, transformation. So when you start that journey, Rivery would be a great fit for standing up that data integration piece in this new architecture. So I would say cloud, another one called necessarily data warehousing, especially these days. It's the lake house. There's a lot of organizations that choose to also stand up a data lakes, which we support as well. If you stand up your analytics infrastructure on the AWS Athena, we support that as well, or just ingest data into a Google Cloud Storage. That's all fine. But essentially, the move to a cloud analytics infrastructure, that's what we'll be supporting. That's a primary use case. Another use case would be around marketing data consolidation. We have over 70 connectors for different marketing data sources. And we've developed a lot of pre-built solutions to support advanced data models to help you, for example, analyze your ad spend across different ad channels. So in a few clicks, we have customers deploying kind of a full data model, helping them understand their marketing spend. That'll be another popular use case. We have a lot of organizations using us to migrate data from operational databases, again, to the data warehouse or to cloud storage of some sort, typically in a CDC fashion. So bringing data from SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, Oracle database, non-relational databases such as MongoDB. We'll see organizations replicating data from those operational databases and combining it with their SaaS applications and enriching it, creating a 360, and then pushing it back to operational systems. So I would say that would be kind of another quite popular use case. Outside of that, we build a lot of data models which are available out of the box for organizations to deploy. But it really spreads across a good number of use cases. I'd say these are the kind of the 3-4 primary use cases that I would focus on.
Okay, that's great. So these are appealing to cloud-first organizations. Those organizations might have stuff that's sort of a long tail of things that reside still on premises with legacy systems, but you're really focused on the cloud aspect of their business. Is that correct? From an operational perspective. Absolutely. And also from an analytics perspective in particular.
Exactly.
Good. Okay, good. All right. So the next question here would be, what are your key differentiators in the market? I think you've talked about some of this, but if you were to highlight to a customer considering Rivery, what would be the 3 facts or 3 supporting pieces of evidence that differentiate you in a landscape that has gotten kind of crowded in recent years?
Indeed. Indeed. So I think the first one, and again, it all relates to how we started and kind of the solutions we provided initially before we productized Rivery was really around helping organizations stand up an analytical infrastructure very, very quickly. So for us to be able to deliver that so quickly, we really need to provide more than just data ingestion. And you touched upon it a little bit in the previous question. It's not just about replicating data to a cloud data warehouse or cloud data lake. It's also about being able to transform the data, build the right models. If you want to be able to transform it in a way that they respect the logic and is done efficiently, you also need an orchestration layer. You need to be able to manage all of that and get the right transparency to all the different pipelines that are running at the same time. So you need some kind of a data ops layer as well to monitor and also deploy new versions as you deploy as you adjust your solution over time. And in the recent years, what we've seen is also a rise around going past the warehouse and not just leaving it for the BI tools to consume it, but also pushing enriched data into operational systems in the form of what's called often called as reverse ETL. So really those kind of 4 or 5 capabilities are at the core of what allows us to really accelerate that deployment of the new analytical infrastructure. And I think we've seen a lot of organizations choosing in the past few years kind of a combination of tools to accomplish that. And they're all great tools on their own, but it's definitely slowing down to go quickly. Putting a total cost of ownership aside, I think that's it's creating a lot of complexities in your environment because you now need to kind of almost like duct tape multiple tools together, which have some integrations between them, but obviously are different technologies and each kind of works in a different way. Each vendor takes it to a different direction as well. So our ability to kind of provide that package environment is really allowing us to shorten the time of delivery for our customers. So we see that over and over again. And definitely, I would say one of our biggest differentiators. The second differentiator I would highlight is what we saw early on, especially among startup organizations, which are still quite technical in nature. They have a lot of very bright engineers that can code, that can do a lot of things. So we saw a lot of needs to go beyond kind of what a very limited kind of no-code experience can offer. So what we try to do is wherever we can really simplify the experience, provide a very quick data pipeline with just a few clicks using a no-code experience. We do that, but at the same time, we recognize the need to offer advanced options, configurations, and also even to go into code whenever you need to, either in the form of SQL or Python. Obviously, there's a robust API as well that allows you to integrate and kind of deploy Rivery in different fashions. But that has been a big deal for us when we were in a competitive situation. when we faced, something that goes beyond kind of the 80% of the traditional kind of use cases. And every organization at some point will face those kind of needs and edge cases that goes beyond kind of the common solution that, is very quick, maybe when you do a quick and dirty POC, but then when you go to real production systems and you now face a certain requirements of the business that is not solvable with a kind of basic no-code approach, being able to kind of expand into more advanced configurations or code can really solve all those things without having to now incorporate yet another external tool or kind of a workaround, which is, again, making the maintenance and the time for delivery. That's the second kind of I'd say differentiated, but also kind of our approach to the way we do things. We want to provide no-code experiences where we can, but also recognize that it needs to go beyond no-code in different situations. Third and kind of last main differentiator I would highlight is I think related to our ability to deliver all those layers we talked about earlier. So not just replication, but also transformation, orchestration, reverse TL. And taking all those capabilities together allows us to provide what we call kits or starter templates, which are essentially prepackaged solutions that go beyond just one aspect. So it's not just about let's provide a predefined data pipeline for ingesting data from Salesforce to Snowflake, but it's also about combining that Salesforce data with your HubSpot data, maybe with Jira and NetSuite, and really providing customer 360 in one very easy to deploy starter kit, which essentially in a few clicks, you just define your connections with your credentials, and then you stand up an environment again very, very quickly with that predefined a template, which of course you can modify to your own needs and liking, but as a starting point, it really allows you to go beyond just a siloed point solution. We see other competitors on the market offering also templates, but those templates are typically for one part of your data pipeline, not for the entire flow, including transformation, including orchestration, including the ability to really bring together multiple data sources and not just one data source at a time. So that has been a big differentiator for us as well. Sorry, I will mention one more.
A bonus one.
A bonus one, which actually helps us quite a bit in competitive scenarios. And again, maybe ties to the second one I mentioned earlier around our flexibility. We offer obviously a large library of managed connections to more than 200 data sources. But I would say that's something that a lot of the competitors in the industry offer. But what we also offer is the ability to create your own custom connections, but still use the managed infrastructure of Rivery. So it's a low-code experience. All you need to do if you have a data source we don't have a native connector for out of the box is just provide the API URL of that data source you want to connect to. We provide a lot of settings around it that makes the experience rather easy when it comes to connecting that source, handling pagination, handling parsing the results that comes back from that API, handling the authentication piece, a lot of things that would be repetitive and quite tedious to develop on your own. And what we provide our customers that way is the ability to really connect to almost any data source. And again, limit the number of tools they need to go to and manage in the environment, obviously lowering the total cost of ownership and just the ease of use of a single kind of platform to manage all that. So that custom connection, a local experience really helped us in a lot of situations where, it's kind of, you put an Excel spreadsheet there, you compare 3 vendors and you look at the library of connectors and you'll see, there's kind of an 80% overlap. There's, one source vendor has, another source that vendor has out of the box, but then there's like 3 more that no one has, and kind of, what do you do now? Do you kind of combine multiple tools together? You start coding for those different sources, or you get that platform that really gives you the option to use the native connectors and custom connectors to bring all your data in. So that has been an important feature for us as well.
Excellent. Okay, so broad, easy connectivity, broad set of capabilities. You can switch between no code, low code, and a little bit of code, or code, I should say. those are some great differentiators. And so really appreciate you joining and talking through this with us today.